Coming up on our newscast tonight. The two Koreas agreed to launch a joint railway inspection on Friday. They finally get to make progress on the April summit agreement to modernize and eventually reconnect rail systems across their border to foster peace and reconciliation. Seoul carries out a test launch of a locally developed rocket engine. Its burn-time test meets the target goal, marking a significant step forward in efforts to develop the country's first space launch vehicle. President Moon Jae-in is in Prague. During the two-day stay, he'll meet with the Czech Republic's Prime Minister to discuss upgrading their strategic partnership and also seek support in helping a South Korean firm land a deal to build a nuclear reactor in that country. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. Seoul and Pyongyang are finally starting their long overdue joint inspections on railways in North Korea. After 2 days of silence, Pyongyang replied today, and they've agreed to start the on-site survey this Friday. Oh Jung-hee starts us off.
It was originally in late July that the two Koreas agreed to start their joint inspections of North Korea's railways. But the problem was, bringing the necessary resources and equipment into the north would violate UN sanctions. Back in late August, Seoul tried to send a research team up north for an on-site survey, but it couldn't because of objections from the UN command. Fast forward, and it's been a 4-month stalemate both in North Korea-US nuclear negotiations and in inter-Korean cooperation. But now there's some progress. Last week, Seoul and Washington launched a bilateral working group. Then the UN Security Council granted a limited waiver to its North Korea sanctions, and the US too decided to grant some exemptions to its own sanctions. Seoul quickly proposed a schedule to the north for the inspections, and with a reply from Pyongyang on Wednesday, the two Koreas are starting their joint rail inspections this Friday.
South and North Korea agreed to move along 2,600 kilometers of North Korean railway tracks over the course of 18 days, starting November 30th. We're going to survey the western section between Kaesong and Siniju for 6 days until December 5th, and then the eastern section between Mount Kumgang and the Tuman River from December 8th until the 12th.
The upcoming inspections will cover tracks in North Korea proper. South and North Korea checked the cross-border sections back in July. 7 South Korean train cars will be crossing the border with 55,000 liters of oil and 300 kilowatts of electricity. At Panmun Station, the South Korean train will link up to a North Korean locomotive and cars. Then they'll move together as they test the western Gyeongui line first and then the eastern Donghae line. The whole process is expected to take 18 days. This will be the first time in over 10 years that the two Koreas have checked the western Gyeongui line, and the first time in history they've surveyed the eastern Donghae line. During the survey, Seoul says it'll talk with the North about holding a groundbreaking ceremony within this year. And after the inspections are over, South Korea will be working on plans for more surveys and then for actual construction. The UN says the two Koreas will need more sanctions waivers to take further steps in setting up railway connections, and Seoul says
actual construction will proceed in accordance with progress in North Korea's denuclearization.
Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
The two Koreas are continuing to tear down guard posts in the DMZ, all part of joint efforts to alleviate military tensions in the border regions. Park Ji-won zooms in on the changes being made.
The two Koreas have been demolishing 10 guard posts each in the DMZ since early this month, and it is expected the demolition process will be completed by the end of this week. This is according to a military source speaking to Arirang News Wednesday afternoon. Once completed, a thorough inspection process will be initiated to confirm the complete demolition of the guard posts on both sides. Yet the military source said no details about the inspection process have been decided as of now, and it will be determined following more inter-Korean military talks. It is also highly likely that the inspection could be conducted by the Inter-Korean Joint Military Committee, which the two Koreas have agreed to set up during September's comprehensive military agreement. Although the two Koreas have yet to reach a conclusion on how to form the military committee, the military source said the committee is likely to launch sometime next month. Earlier this month, two Koreas revealed to the media images of guard post facilities in the DMZ being torn down. Over at the joint security area located in the truce village of Panmunjom, the two Koreas as well as the United Nations Command have already completed a 2-day joint inspection on the demilitarization of the area in late October. According to the military source, the three sides are currently discussing ways to jointly manage the patrols of the joint security area and allow civilian visits. It's not yet clear, though, when the three-way consultations will come to a conclusion on the matter. Meanwhile, a 12-meter-wide inter-Korean road in the DMZ at Arrowhead Hill in Cheolwon, Gangwon-do Province will be paid for vehicle use. The pavement and ditch digging operations are likely to be completed by early next year to facilitate the first-ever joint war remains recovery project between the two Koreas starting next April. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
South Korea will deliver 50 tons of pest control chemicals to North Korea's border town of Kaesong tomorrow via the land route. Heading north will be 15 people, including forestry experts and officials from the South's Forest Service. They'll deliver the items in the morning and in the afternoon, look around the nearby pine forest and with officials from Pyongyang, discuss ways to work together. Seoul says the chemicals to be sent tomorrow are not restricted by the UN sanctions, and the delivery is to prevent forest damage from spreading. Back in August, South Korea sent officials to the North's Mount Kumgangsan for a joint check on local forests. Working-level talks between Pyongyang and Washington may not happen, according to some reports. According to a U.S. official, the North has not responded to proposals to reschedule other high-level talks that need to happen first, but have been postponed. Top American officials seem to believe that the regime needs to make an effort before the window of opportunity closes. Lee Ji-won tells us more.
Talks between Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and his North Korean counterpart have been postponed already, and now working-level talks between the two sides seem to be falling apart too. Radio Free Asia reported Tuesday that according to a former senior U.S. official, Washington's Special Representative for North Korea Stephen Biegun was going to attend working-level talks with North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee in mid-December. The former official said that Biegun had even cleared out his schedule the second week of December for that meeting, amid hopes that the high-level talks between Secretary Pompeo and his North Korean counterpart would be rescheduled to sometime in late November. There were reports that the U.S. had proposed holding the high-level talks toward the end of November, but never heard back from Pyongyang. And according to the former official, there is no meeting scheduled with the North as of now, and unless the current situation changes, it'd be hard for the working-level meeting to take place in December. Observers say that the North and the U.S. are in a tug-of-war over the lifting of sanctions and over concrete steps toward denuclearization, but that they need to make sure they don't lose the momentum for dialogue. The Seoul-based paper 중앙일보 reported Wednesday that in a meeting with his South Korean counterpart earlier this month, Biegun said the window of opportunity for the nuclear talks is closing if the North continues to be ambiguous, referring to Pyongyang's silence about rescheduling the high-level talks. Citing a U.S. official, the paper reported that Biegun also said that because of growing pressure on those in the U.S. who want dialogue with the North and with the Democrats taking over the lower house of Congress, the Trump administration cannot sit idly by. The administration has been emphasizing how there is no time frame for North Korea's denuclearization, but watchers say Biegun seems to hint that dragging out the negotiations won't do any good. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Today, South Korea tested its indigenous rocket engine. It was a roaring success, a most promising step forward in reaching the long-term goal of launching the Korea Space Launch Vehicle 2 by the year 2021. Choi Si-young fills us in on the details.
엔진 점화. 발사.
According to the Ministry of Science and ICT and Korea Aerospace Research Institute, the engine fully combusted for 151 seconds, 11 seconds longer than what the team considers a successful run.
On Wednesday at 4 p.m. Korea time, the rocket engine was successfully launched from the NATO Space Center in Gohung, Jeollanam-do Province.
The rocket flew for about 10 minutes. It reached a peak altitude of roughly 200 kilometers after some 300 seconds into flight, before splashing down in international waters off the southeastern coast of Jeju-do Island. The engine launch is a trial run for the country's second carrier rocket known as Korea Space Launch Vehicle 2, or NUDI, meaning the world in ancient Korean. NUDI is a three-stage vehicle developed entirely with homegrown technology using 75-ton force engines to launch satellites into the orbit in 2021. Wednesday's test launch was for only the second stage of the NUDI's propulsion, with the first and third stage engines to be tested starting early next year. 최시영, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in is in the Czech Republic for a two-day stay ahead of the G20 summit in Argentina. The South Korean leader is there to call for greater economic cooperation with a strong focus on a potentially lucrative nuclear reactor deal. Shin Se-min files this report from Prague.
President Moon Jae-in's first stop on his three-nation round-the-world trip starts here in the Czech Republic, an important diplomatic layover on his way to the G20 summit in Buenos Aires. During his two-day stay in Prague, the South Korean leader will be holding a summit with Czech Prime Minister Andrej Babiš. At that meeting, President Moon is expected to call for Prague's support in helping a South Korean state-run firm land a deal to build a nuclear reactor in the Czech Republic. Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Corporation is considered the front-runner in the bidding process, as the head of the Czech Republic's State Office for Nuclear Safety said last month that the South Korean firm looks best placed to win the contract. Currently, there are 6 companies and consortia on the European countries' list of options, including ones from China, Russia, France, and the U.S. After holding talks with Prime Minister Babiš, President Moon will meet with South Koreans living in the Czech Republic to urge them to continue being a bridge between the two countries. The South Korean leader will then board yet another long flight, this time to Argentina, to attend the G20 summit for the second time since taking office. During his short stay here in the Czech Republic, the South Korean leader is working to boost the two sides' strategic partnership by adding another layer of economic cooperation with a strong focus on the nuclear reactor bid. Regardless, the Prague trip is a warm-up to the G20 conference in Argentina, where President Moon will push his North Korea peace drive and the economic diplomacy with the biggest players on the world stage. Shin Se-min, Arirang News, Prague.
The nation's top office confirmed that President Moon Jae-in and his American counterpart Donald Trump will indeed hold a separate meeting on the sidelines of the G20 summit hosted in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The South Korean leader's chief press secretary Yoon Young-chan said in a press briefing in Prague on Wednesday that the exact time of the meeting is still to be determined, but the duo will likely discuss ways to work together in promoting the complete denuclearization of the peninsula and the establishment of permanent peace. The White House confirmed the planned encounter between the presidents earlier in the day. The last time the two met was on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York back in September. The two-day G20 summit starts on Friday. The Speaker of the National Assembly has designated 28 bills linked to next year's budget plan to be reviewed by the Parliament's standing committees. Among them are revisions to the laws on property tax, corporate tax, and income tax. Under the National Assembly Act, lawmakers must review the bills by November 30th, which is this Friday. If that's not accomplished, they will automatically be referred to the plenary session for a full floor vote Saturday, along with the 2019 government spending plan, unless parties agree otherwise. However, the deliberations aren't expected to be easy. The Budget Subcommittee hasn't been able to move ahead on the budget itself for the past few days. Rival parties are at odds after the government said it expects a 4 trillion won shortfall in tax revenues next year. Staying here in the nation, foreign direct investment topped $20 billion for the fourth consecutive year, a trend driven mainly by easing geopolitical risks on the Korean peninsula and a boom in the country's semiconductor and petrochemical sectors. Kim Ji-yeon sheds light on the welcome developments.
The amount of foreign direct investment reached a record high of more than $23 billion so far this year, according to data by the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy released on Wednesday. The lion's share of FDI came from the European Union, which rose by more than 24% from last year to $7.1 billion. The second highest contributor was the U.S., which soared 37% on year to $5.1 billion, while investments from China saw the biggest percentage increase, jumping by a staggering 252% on year to $2.6 billion. By sector, those related to the manufacturing sector, including machinery and equipment, as well as those related to telecommunications, increased steadily. The ministry pointed to a number of factors that have contributed to the rising level of FDI. It cited diffused tensions in the Korean peninsula through increased inter-Korean cooperation and North Korea-U.S. dialogue. It also pointed to Korea's high credit ratings, as well as a boom in Korea's core industries related to semiconductors, displays, and the petrochemical sector. The ministry says investments related to the fourth industrial revolution, including those in the biotech, mobile finance, and digital contents, have also expanded. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
For many years, chronically low birth rate has been an issue South Korea is unable to resolve. If recent data is any indication, the country could see its annual fertility rate drop even further in the near future. Won Jung-hwan has the full story.
The number of newborns in South Korea fell again in September, yet another sign of the country's chronically low birth rate. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the number of newborns for that month was the lowest for any September since the agency started compiling related data on a monthly basis. The number of childbirths per month has been decreasing on year every month since December 2015. In September, about 26,000 babies were born, down 13.3% from a year earlier and 24% lower compared to 2016. The number of babies born during the third quarter fell to some 80,000, down 10.3% from a year earlier, marking the lowest third quarter tally since 1981. On a yearly basis, despite concerted efforts to tackle the issue, the number of newborns dropped to a record low last year. It totaled less than 360,000, down 11.9% from 2016. Experts are already concerned about this year's overall number. The total fertility rate, or the number of babies that a woman is projected to have during her lifetime, has been gradually decreasing in every quarter of this year. Considering that the fourth quarter of the year tends to mark the lowest figure of all, experts say it is highly likely that the total fertility rate for the country could fall below 1 for the year 2018. The expected figure is worrisome as it not only suggests that there are quite a lot of women who do not have a baby, but it will also bring us serious concerns in terms of economic growth potential in the country, reducing the size of the workforce and driving up welfare costs to support a rapidly aging population. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
We're seeing a growing number of multicultural families here in South Korea. In tune with this change, the country's education system will also need to be reformed to better support such diversity. For details, let's turn to our Seo Bo-bin.
South Korea's demographic landscape is changing rapidly, highlighted by an increase in the number of multicultural families. Research shows that 3% of all elementary students here in Korea come from multicultural backgrounds. According to the National Assembly Legislation Bureau, the number of multicultural students enrolled in Korea's elementary, middle, and high schools rose 12% on year as of April. This represents a more than 2.5-fold increase from the year 2012, for a total of 122,000 multicultural students in the country. The region with the highest number of multicultural students was Gyeonggi-do province at 24% of the nation's total, followed by Seoul at 13%. The list is rounded out by Jeollanam-do province, Chungcheongnam-do province, and Gyeongsangbuk-do province. With Korea becoming a more multicultural society, it has led to growing calls to reform the country's education system to reflect this demographic shift. It is also being suggested that in regions with a high concentration of multicultural families, bilingual curriculums and cultural awareness programs should be introduced to help strengthen multiculturalism in Korea. 서보빈, Arirang News.
The Secretary General of the OECD was in South Korea for the organization's 6th World Forum held in Incheon, which runs through Thursday. Our Kim Hye-sung got to sit down with Gurria to get his thoughts on the theme of this year's event, the future of well-being and the current state of the South Korean economy. Let's take a look.
The OECD pointed to digitalization as a key trend that could affect people's well-being in the next 10 to 20 years. AI and robots are expected to change the way people communicate and live and disrupt around half of existing jobs among OECD countries, meaning both the public and the private sector need to find new ways of governance. On how the host country of this year's OECD World Forum, Korea, is faring on well-being and economy, Secretary General Gurria said,
Korea has inflation under control. Korea has a current account which is quite strong. Korea is a powerhouse of exports. With all the classic indicators, Korea is in relatively good shape. But the question with Korea is, look at the medium and the long term. We mentioned a moment ago the question of aging. That is going to be very crucial because not only does it impinge in terms of the total size of the workforce, it also has an impact on public finances, which is quite considerable. It also has an impact in terms of your planning for skills.
As a medium-sized open economy that is vulnerable to slowing global trade growth, Korea also faces challenges like worsening inequality and low labor productivity, which is 46% below that in the top half of the OECD countries.
What's your advice on how Korea, from the public and the private sector, can do to tackle its challenges like rising income gap and high unemployment and help boost its economy?
Inclusive growth. That has to be the answer. And then we find a leader here in Korea, Moon Jae-in, who has precisely that approach and who has those same priorities. But the question is also on which quality of life. And that is where the companies can make a very great contribution. They can make a contribution by training the adults that work for them.
On top of efforts by companies to raise labor productivity, Mr. Gurria says, deregulation by the government to spur private sector innovation is also important.
You have to keep a proper balance between productivity and therefore growth and inclusiveness.
Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now. This month, a cartoon character considered the face of Disney celebrates its 90th birthday. Mickey Mouse is marking the occasion by touring the city of Seoul to meet local fans. Our Oh Soo-young was there to catch a glimpse of the icon in this first ever visit to the country.
Mickey Mouse is in Seoul. Sporting his trademark ears and his signature smile, the world's most famous mouse began his first ever tour of the country on the month of his 90th birthday. He surprised Seoul locals in the city centre on Wednesday, appearing with Korean actors Lee Jung-gi and Shin Se-kyung, along with staff members of Disney. Mickey wrapped early Christmas presents for 500 children from low-income families.
It's like you've never ever experienced that at all, like with Mickey Mouse, to wrapping up those gifts for the children.
The Walt Disney icon's visit comes as part of his birthday celebration taking place around the globe. Mickey Mouse first hit the big screen in 1928 in the Disney cartoon Steamboat Willie. Fast forward 90 years, he's still the world's most famous cartoon character, having starred in 121 animated short films and around 90 TV series since. To meet with his fans around the globe, Mickey Mouse has visited Shanghai, London and New York and has now partnered with Seoul City in the 3rd anniversary of its I Seoul You slogan.
Seoul is celebrating Mickey's birthday, and he in return is celebrating the 3rd year of the I Seoul You brand, which we hope will last for more than 100 years. Through our collaboration, we plan to share his moments of touring Seoul via social media.
Before he leaves on Saturday, Mickey will visit some of Seoul's iconic landmarks, including the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, Yeouido Hangang Park and N-Seoul Tower. So there's plenty of time to spot those famous ears for yourself. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, I hear more yellow dust is expected to blow into the country tonight.
That's right, Daniel. Now, fine dust concentrations are already high in the country. The levels are expected to fluctuate overnight, but we are also expecting some cold front to push out the dust starting from the north. And tomorrow afternoon in Korea will be mostly cloudy along with some breaks of sunshine. And at the same time, Beijing will be sunny, but with similar highs expected in Seoul. Now, the cold wind will bring Seoul to 0 degrees Celsius by the morning, Chuncheon at -2 and Gyeongju at -1 degrees. The daytime highs in Seoul will top out to 7 degrees, while the southern regions will even reach into the mid-teens. In the meantime, the weather looks to cooperate, and by next week, dry conditions will be relieved by some rain. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for you in tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Wherever you may be tuning in from, thanks for staying with us.
The 70-year-old NATO alliance is facing serious threats on its cohesion and solidarity. French President Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel have called on the European Union to field its own joint military force outside of the U.S. security umbrella, earning and criticism of President Donald Trump. What are the roots of this latest controversy? Tune into The Point World Affairs to find out.
Now, a glimpse into everyday life.
scientific discoveries of the curious and innovative modern man. There are 5 keys that will open the doors to the future. The first key consists of zeros and ones in the form of digital information. Human beings are becoming smarter thanks to the digital revolution, and our lives are rapidly changing. The second key is new materials. Humans aren't limited to naturally occurring materials anymore. By developing new artificial materials, we have reached a turning point in history. The third is genetic engineering. While food is plentiful today, it may not be so in the very near future. But through genetic engineering, we may be able to overcome this imposing threat. The fourth key is mutations. Mutations are the causes of diseases, as well as an important impetus in human evolution. In this series, we will unravel the mysteries behind this amazing phenomenon. The fifth key is the sun. Mankind's need for energy seems to know no bounds. Now, through the sun, we are looking for a sustainable form of energy for the future. We will open the doors to the future of science through these 5 incredible keys. Today, we embark on an incredible journey. There are breathtaking landscapes around the world that every adventurer is dying to visit. They can be found in the Himalayas, the Sahara, and the Pacific Ocean. Even from the comfort of your living room. Choose your destination, and you can get there in the blink of an eye, no matter how far away it is. You can even travel under the sea. Just take a digital journey into virtual reality. The entire world is becoming encoded. It is the basis of all the latest technologies that have made life so convenient for us. It's a simple matter of zeros and ones. It is this seemingly innocuous combination that is the key to the digital age of the future. Digital technology has also changed the way we interact. When was the last time you wrote a letter? Instead of taking the time and effort to write down our innermost thoughts and waiting for days until our letter is delivered, we opt to send abbreviated text messages instantaneously. Our social circles are much larger now, though whether our friendships are truly meaningful is an entirely different matter. Even the process of browsing through libraries in search of books has become a needless activity. Flipping through the pages of heavy tomes has also become a useless inconvenience. With a single piece of digital equipment, we can literally carry around thousands of books. Instead of meeting people face-to-face when we give them gifts, we use our digital machines to give our gifts quickly and conveniently. There's no debating that humanity has become captivated with digital technology. Life in the digital age is not bound by temporal or spatial limitations. Many of our activities take place not in the real world, but in the virtual world on our computer screens. There's no need to try on clothes either. We can get the information we need at the simple click of a button. We can even visit exotic destinations like the South Pacific from the comfort of our home. While this technology is at once fascinating and convenient, as with any gift of science, it is a double-edged sword. Digital technology is no exception. So what kind of world are we choosing through digital technology? Are we truly freer now? Are we happier? So how did digital technology come to dominate modern civilization? We can find the answer to this question in the story of Romeo and Juliet, the lovers who had difficulty communicating. When it is discovered that the lovers were talking to each other through their windows, their parents take measures to prevent this. Now their windows no longer face each other. The solution to this problem is to convey their messages using Morse code. By sending Morse code through a line connected to each other's rooms, they have a method which is much more covert and convenient than using their flashlights. But no secret lasts forever. What if the lovers are found out and move so far from each other that no line could possibly connect their rooms? How would they overcome such an obstacle?
로미오, 보고 싶어요.
Is there a way to overcome this obstacle?
로미오.
We can find the answer to this question in track and field. Runners run relays passing a baton in order to cover long distances at full speed. One of the lovers placed equipment and someone to operate it every couple of 100 kilometers. Once a message is sent, an operator in the middle will receive it and send it on to the next operator. By placing multiple operators in the middle in this way, messages can be sent no matter how far the distance. Then, nothing could stop these two lovers from talking to each other. In essence, by using a device that will boost the electric current in the middle, electric signals can be sent for long distances. Moreover, if you use a device equipped with an electromagnet to turn the switch on and off, there would be no need for an operator. A relay device which controls the switch not through a human operator but through electricity. Such a device could yield amazing results. Using such a relaying device, it is possible to make a calculator or even a computer. First, let's calculate 7 minus 3 using a calculator made up of a relay device circuit board. First, switches are turned on to spell out 0111, the binary form of 7. Then switches in the form of 1101, which equals 3, are turned on. The resulting value turns on in the form of 0100. That translated into the decimal system is the number 4. By using equipment that is controlled through electrical currents in the place of people, it is possible to calculate even more complex problems quickly. Now, let's try adding 125 to 2013. First, we input 125 using the familiar decimal system. The machine converts it into binary code. Next, we input 2013 using the decimal system. And the machine switches on the equivalent of this number in binary code. By pressing the addition sign, the relay computer will calculate the number quickly, turning its switches on and off. The resulting value is 100001011010, and the computer converts this number into the